Hello, love. All
Hello.
right. Yes, we are. Kelly Rogers is with me today on Floating on a Cloud podcast. And we are going to be talking about her experience with listening to her divine guidance. Kelly Rogers in service works with archangels, ascended masters, and guides traveling between the dimensions and working on the new earth grid. She's a shaman, a medium, intuitive, and wellness coach. Currently holding space and sending love as we progress into oneness. I love it. So, has there ever been a time that you weren't listening to your divine guidance?
Absolutely.
I didn't know if it was just a thing that you always just did, or if this is something that you have stepped into.
Well, I remember as a child having a sense of other beings being around me. But as you know, in our society, all the parents always say, "Oh, it's your imagination." There's nothing there.
Mm-hmm.
My guides have now told me that they absolutely were there, and I was sensing them. But a lot of that is kind of drilled out of us, I think. I know as a teenager, even as a young child, there was an incident where I was a bit in danger with the neighbor boys, let's put it that way. And my mom actually got in the car and drove towards where I was. And I left the neighbor boys, ran down the hill, and there was my mom in the car. And she said, I knew something was wrong. I got in the car and I just started going in the direction that I felt I needed to go. And so being intuitive was not totally a bad thing in my family, although the beings that I felt were around, it was kind of like, no. And as a teenager, we would go to fortune tellers or palm readers and that kind of thing. So it wasn't totally like negated that this was a bad thing, but never really encouraged that we would necessarily have our own gifts. Today, I know that everybody is gifted. They may not be totally awake to those gifts, but we all are very blessed with many, many gifts. Mm-hmm. But that isn't the way we're taught. Mm-hmm. And today I know so many things that I just, I always think, oh, I would love to. Wouldn't it have been nice if grade school was more like, oh, let's see if you can read Jimmy's thoughts. Or manifest something exciting, it's just, wouldn't that have been nice? And even as a medium, to know that this is just a chapter of our lives, and that when we transition from this life to another life, we're just going into another adventure. We just, and there's parallel lives and all that. Wouldn't that be nice to know, so that you don't have this fear of death and this, it's so, when people transition, I'm able to connect up with them and they're so happy. Typically they're out of pain. They're with other loved ones. I know when my dad was transitioning here, his sister came in, who I never knew, but she clearly came in to help him. His mom came in, my mom came in. I mean, they were right here to support him in the spirit world, to be with him during his transition. So there's so much support around us that we don't know about.
Was he aware of the support?
Yes. He was the one who told me about his sister. He goes, oh, Georgie's here. And I go, really? Okay. And when my grandmother and mother came in, I came to him and I said, I don't know if they're here for you or for me, but they're here. And, so he was very open to that as well. So that was nice.
That is so interesting that both your mom and dad were open and where you were able to talk openly about that.
Yes.
Oh, so are you, who do you all connect with? Because you just connected with those who have passed. So as a medium,
yes.
Do you connect with other spiritual realms? How do you work? Because that's one of the things that I'm always curious about. It's like, how do you receive?
So initially, when I started realizing that I may have some gifts, I went to a psychic class, and and I did all right. It felt like I was kind of connecting. It wasn't like real clear. But what was interesting is as I drove there every week, I would smell cookies. And I knew that there was someone there that smelled like cookies. And so I am able to smell beings that come in. So I've smelled my mother's perfume, and I assume that's her. I've gotten smart enough now, if I smell something, I'll ask, who are you? And I've had ascended masters come in with scent. I have had people that have passed come in with scent. Just kind of depends on how they're going to present themselves. But through that psychic class, I really liked it. And she talked about a shaman having a class, and I was very interested in that. That resonated. So I went and I had a class with a shaman, and that was pretty amazing because even though I was able to kind of sense that I was getting colors and connecting perhaps a little bit with other beings in the psychic class, when I went to the shaman class and he would drum, I was in the underworld in seconds, and I was in the upper world in seconds. And I met the god of the underworld and had a conversation with him during one of these drumming sessions. And I'm like, wow, this is pretty cool. And that was with ease, that I found I was able to easily move between the planes. And I didn't think of myself as a shaman. I just thought this was easier for me than, being like intuitive or reading messages for other people kind of thing. And so, there have been times where I sense things more than other times. And I'm a recovering alcoholic and drug addict. And I realized today that I wanted a distraction because I was gifted. I came in here, we all come in and we're kind of, I'm going to say it, dummied down, because I think we're all knowing before we came to the earth plane. And we agreed that we were going to come here to do some work that's happening right now. And so I think when I was in flow and maybe aligned with who I really am, and this kind of came through as I got sober and more connected with a higher power. And this was in my 20s. More information would come in, but I also found I could easily get distracted, and I'm going to say distraction like addiction, finding something else to focus my attention on so I'm not really staying in alignment and really being in flow and opening up to the messages. And so it took, I'm going to say, several years in the program to kind of get my shit together. And it wasn't until 12 years ago. Now I've been sober 40 years. So it wasn't really until 12 years ago that it really shifted for me. And that shift came because I was diagnosed with cancer. And that scared me. I had gotten into health and wellness 8 years before that, and I had a very clean diet, and I was shocked. Why do I have this? What is going on that would create this, that would manifest this? And I went to a doctor, and his bedside manner was bad, scared me even more. And I got in my car and I'm driving to work and I'm crying, going, what do I do? What do I do? To my higher power. Because by this time I had a little bit of a practice. I would do gratitude lists. I would pray every day. I was trying to keep myself in alignment and in flow. And the message that came through was shaman and qigong. And so I was able to reconnect with that shaman that I'd had a class with years before. And I actually found locally, qigong was here. And so what I did was I started seeing that shaman for a year. I saw him every week for a year. And that was when things started really shifting for me, because when I was on his healing table, my guides came in, and I didn't know that they were my guides. They just, I could sense they were there. I could see them. And the shaman could sense me sensing something, and he would ask, "What's going on? And I'd say, "Well, there's someone here." Well, ask what their name is. I wouldn't have thought to ask what their name is, So, so because I went to these regular sessions with him to heal, my plan was to heal the cancer, not have to have surgery. Every week was kind of a learning for me, more and more and more. And so I learned how to ask for their names. They had me do assignments. We started doing like service projects together while I was on the table. I would move dimensionally to other areas. And so the ease of traveling between dimensions was just very, very natural for me. And because the shaman validated what was going on with what during these sessions, that helped to support that I wasn't crazy, which is really important for people to know, that when they're starting to smell things and hear things and see beings, because I have beings in my house all the time, and they pop their head through the floorboard and and smile at me and do weird things like that. And you're like, am I losing my mind? No, I'm not. And so it was nice. It was like the perfect place to really start seeing those gifts start coming through. And then I've had some other really amazing teachers since then. And all of this kind of started because of this cancer thing that have helped me open up and share those gifts. But I think that the shaman really helped. And he's still a dear friend today.
I love how open you are.
Well, it's, I was so blessed. And those beings that I worked with on the shaman's table, we still work together today. We are still working with the New Earth grid or the cosmic grid, or, many people have different names for the new heaven on earth. And they have been in and out of all the service projects that I've done, because the next teacher that kind of came into play was someone in Arkansas, and I'm in Minnesota. And the other thing that I did besides the shaman was transformational breathing, because breathing is really, really important. And I didn't know this either. But someone, a friend of mine who knew I had cancer said, "Oh, I've heard this breathing will clear you of cancer." I'm like, okay, I'm in. And I started doing that. And what I found with the breathing is I could, again, very easily move between dimensions. I could connect up with my ancestors, have conversations with them during these breath sessions. Was pretty amazing. And it wasn't like overnight. Nothing is overnight. It's all baby steps. And I think that's really important too. It's like, today it could be as quickly as snap your fingers and you're a channel, but 12 years ago, that wasn't kind of the case. And so, so in Arkansas, I had a new teacher, and that's where I was connected with the Ascended Masters and the Archangels.
I wanted to add in when you said that about there is a reverb, and I'm just going to see if this would help. Can you still hear me okay, or is there still a reverb? Okay, so when you come back on, let's unmute you, because I'm not quite sure why the reverb is happening, but when you were talking about it happening really quickly now, versus 12 years ago. Is that because the energy has sped up with things? You can unmute yourself.
Yes, absolutely. And I have a really great example. Well, for myself, my gifts continued to increase and increase, where I was able to see galactic beings come into my house. I was able to, through meditation and breathing, I was able to work on service projects with Archangel Metatron. I've been able to travel to Arcturus. I can travel to Orion and sit with him and have a conversation. I can travel to the city of Telos, where the Lemurians are. So I have certain places that's very easy. I'm also very able to move into different parallel lives and be in those lives with my other aspects, which is like, now we're in woo-woo 301 or 402 or 608, it's like, when I talked to Metatron, I'm like, how many places am I? And he said, you are in 366 times 366 places at one time. And I said, okay, I'm in a lot of places. I told that to someone who was very tapped in, and she goes, oh, that makes perfect sense. I'm like, well, good. I'm glad it makes sense to you. So what I've noticed in the last, I don't know, maybe 3-4 months is intuitively, I'm able to answer questions for people that I wasn't able to do a year ago. Information is coming through very quickly and easily. And I have a friend who was never channeled before in her life. She's a shaman. She does plant spirit medicine. And 3 weeks ago, the Andromedans that have been working with me for probably 5-6 years showed up at her house. And so she says, there's somebody here. And I'm like, oh, is it Scout? I just named him Scout. And she said, yes. And we started asking questions, and he talked through her. Now, the last 2 weeks, Archangel Zedkiel came through, explaining that our group was a cluster and that he was in charge of, and we were distracted and kind of needed to get our shit together. And he was like, very strict. And it was kind of like, this is important. We need you not to be distracted. And he really talked about being, we're not here to do, we're here to be. And this is great. He said, I always talk about gold light and he talked about silver light, silver sparkly light. He said, think of yourself as a lighthouse, and you're sending out silver sparkly light, but you just need to be the lighthouse. That's all. There's no fixing anything. There's no doing anything, although there is an action with sending out light from the lighthouse. And it's hard in a 3D mind, which we have this 3D mind, plus we have many, many dimensional levels to this body and to this whole body. But in the 3D, it's hard to conceptualize. So we really have to get to a 5D or above, and to be in that place where you're in alignment and flowing, to really allow that information to come through. Mm-hmm. And because the veils, they call it veils, have lifted, it's just the barriers that were put up. And part of that is for our protection. We could not have handled the amount of energetics that are coming into our planet right now a couple of years ago. This has been a gradual, very gradual kind of escalation on the ascension. And each part of that I've worked on, it's been pretty step-by-step. Archangel Michael, Archangel Metatron, Master Cerebus Bay, Melchizedek, he's popping in. Don't forget me. Okay, gotcha. I mean, that's what's nice today. It's like they'll pop in and they'll say, hey, I'm here too. Shout out. for me. And so it really is becoming, a very different world. I believe our bodies are carbon-based, and that we're going to crystalline. And that's how this is part of the ascension process, is that our bodies, and the babies coming in now are crystalline. So they have it all. And we're all at different levels. Now I'm an old carbon being, so turning that carbon into crystalline takes a little bit longer. With the energetics coming in, what I tell everyone is which was told to me by a friend who's a channel, is I needed to put space in between my cells. So see yourself expanding out and see yourself expanding up. I like to make myself a giant bubble, but with lots of space in between my cells, because we all are they're telling me right now, 10 to 16 feet tall, depending on where our galactic family of origin, or it's not really origin, but where we came from right before we came here. Because I believe we're all masters from other planets. And we said, yes, we're going to come and help with this project. If you're here on the planet, you haven't been released through COVID, which that was a release of a lot of beings who said, I'm done. I had a good time and I'm ready to leave. I don't want to be a part of the next, this next phase of ascension. But many of them are now going into the New Earth grid. I see them there. My relatives are there. I'm able to go in there and see them working on projects in there, which is pretty cool. And so, yes, I see a question coming up. So I could just go on and on and on.
I know.
The lack of energy.
No, I love it. It's just, how do you know the difference? And you're so far from where you had started. And if you hear any background noise, my youngest one is crying at this present moment. So that's why I keep unmuting and muting. So how can you tell the difference between just a thought that you're thinking in this 3D mind to having these multiple dimension beings even coming in? How can you tell the difference?
So I know at the beginning, when I was with the shaman, there was a lot of validation there. And then with my next teacher, like I mentioned, in Arkansas, and I worked dimensionally on that land. They're telling me I am still doing some work there for years. And she gave me basically that same validation. She could see that I was seeing other beings and help me then share what I had been told by the beings. And it is a process. You need to be around people that are like-minded, that can support you, because there are a lot of people out there that have gifts and don't have those people saying, yes, I understand exactly what you're saying. I started doing a class on Thursday evenings. It's a very quick class, but it is it's a start at community, at connection with other people who just, there's starting to just having a group that isn't going to say you're nuts. And
that's what I was going to ask, is the getting over being weird or crazy. Yeah. Is the being involved with a community and connection priceless for you?
It is.
Or for others as well?
It is. My guides told me when I was doing the breathing, they said I needed to have a group weekly that came to my house. So we would have between 5 and 10 people here every week doing transformational breathing together. We would travel, and some of us would see, feel, smell, taste, whatever hear. Everybody had slightly different experiences. And so that was wonderful, because we really built a really strong community and understood that there were many like us, but we all experienced things differently. And the whole thing is there's no one that's right or wrong. It's through your filter. So it's what you're experiencing, and that all can evolve, as you move on, right?
Yeah. How do you trust? How do you trust the guidance that you're coming in as you are learning and growing and evolving?
Trust what I'm seeing and hearing.
Yes.
A lot of that is I'll ask questions, and it's just practice over time. There have been situations where the first time I met up with Metatron, well, it wasn't the first time actually, but I had a concern. I went to a channel who told me that the way I was traveling was incorrect, that I needed to have a guide to be able to travel, because I didn't feel like I had a guide. I just felt like it was like going from one plane to the next was like walking through a cellophane piece of paper. It was that easy to walk through. And she's like, no, you can't be traveling unless you're with a guide. So my teacher in Arkansas, I went to her and I said, I have some concerns based on what she said. So she put me in a trance and had me connect up with Archangel Metatron. And I can't, it was like hypnosis kind of thing, but I went very easily. I went to what I called the jungle world, which is one of the worlds that I am in currently in a different timeline. And there was a glass table with no legs. He was at one end of the table. I was at the table. I asked him questions. He showed me the connections between how I was working with the underworld, how I was working with the angels, how I was working with the ascended masters. All of this was kind of shown to me in diagram. And it would be just like I was at my current dining room table with him, like across the table, and I was just seeing this like we see in these sci-fi movies. And at this point, all this could be my imagination. At the end of the meeting, he shook my hand, and that's when I knew it wasn't my imagination. Never in a million years would I have thought Metatron would shake my hand. And I was like, oh my God, that was real. So you kind of watch for those things that are not you, that you would not have thought would have occurred. And then you start trusting yourself. And I know when I would smell things, I would say, okay, who are you? And I would want to hear the answer a couple of times to trust that I had, the correct reading on the smell. Like for me, Archangel Metatron would come in and he would smell like dust on a lamp. If you have a light bulb and you've got dust on it, that would be his smell. Archangel or Ascended Master Cerebus Bay, he would come in with a kind of a citrusy smell. And so they used different ways to communicate until I was comfortable enough to just know, to have the knowing. Like Sekhmet came into my house and big being. And right away, it was just a knowing. I just was like, oh, Sekhmet. And I'm like, wow. And I'm vacuuming the house. Oh, Sekhmet. and she was like, I need you to meditate. I have a message for you. And I said, well, I'm kind of busy. I'll have to get back to you. Because, it's like, again, I probably should have stopped everything to get the message. But, there's you have to do certain things in this world too. So it's kind of time management, maybe. I don't know. And so I think just seeing kind of having these kind of experience after experience and seeing similar things. And then also with the breathing group, they would see some of the same things I did. So I still Like even the meditation, I have a new meditation that I just created. My guides helped me create this to get to the New Earth grid. I'll send it out to anybody who's interested. I've been trying to send it out to everybody that I know. It's very simple, and I love the feedback that people give me. I got, like I was vibrating, or I saw these colors, or I experienced this. And again, everybody's different, but it's such a lovely experience. And I go there every day. I mean, I've got a portal at my house that gets me to the quantum field every morning. I also have, they're saying it's not a portal. They're saying it's a channel. That may not be the correct word, to the central sun. So I get these messages that there's something I need to do, and I asked them, why are you, when I was on the shaman's table and I was getting all this information and all these these projects we were doing together, and I was like, why me? And they said it was because I was malleable. Now, again, I know that's not coming from me. I don't know that word. They do this all the time. They give me words. I have to sometimes spell them to people because I can't pronounce them. It's not in my vocabulary. And I'm like, okay, I know this is not. Yeah. Because I was just talking about the Lemurians and having sentinels, but that word was not coming through. They spell it for me so that I can get it out in whatever context. So those things, and then I think truly with the amount of the energetics coming in, besides expanding yourself out, I think it's really important to just really honor your body. If you need sleep, if you need water, if you need to eat a little more, if there may be a need for you to put a few pounds on because it's insulation for all that electric energy coming through just for a short period of time until you can adjust to it.
I hear you there, sister. But I feel like now is the time to adjust. There's been some ascension happening, and actually Gwen, who we know through Spiritual Communities Network, and I had a about an hour plus, I guess, conversation today. And as I was experiencing what she said was ascension, and I didn't understand that because I just am receiving how I learn as spirit shares with me information, and then I just go and do. And so I don't have the background information of what's going on. And even like today, spirit gave me some words, like it would be an affirmation, but it turned into a meditation. And I was to share it with this new group, and it's called Becoming, and it's all about being. So when you're talking about being, I'm like, yep, I gotcha. And as I was repeating and doing this meditation, I realized those that are doing it are truly becoming their soul. And it's the energy of that. And they're elevating to meet their soul, but they're like becoming it. It's like they're merging into mind, body, and soul. And so I'm excited for the group to experience this and that sort of thing. So how may we connect with you? And thank you so much for sharing all of your wonderful insight and stories. And I could talk to you for hours about, and I've got so many other questions. But.
Now, the one thing I didn't touch on yet was the latest service project, which was the new wellness products from Club Sparkle.
Yes.
So so just kind of to finish the cancer, I was with a shaman for a year. I did have surgery. I was able to stay awake through the whole surgery. It was 16 hours. There were 2 different surgeries. And I was able to tone. I knew my guides were there. I did it at Mayo Clinic. It was beautiful. And so 2 years ago, so that was, that was 12 years ago, or 11, 10, whatever, after the shaman. But 2 years ago, I found, I was asked to come to a meeting about the Club Sparkle products because they're done with copper plates. There's no chemicals involved. And so they bring our body to a higher vibration. So our bodies can assimilate the energy that's coming in. and they're healthy for us. In our 3D, as we're shedding the carbon and whatever other, remnants of what we've got in our bodies that we need to get rid of. And so, so that is my current project, sharing that with everyone. And because of that, it has really put me out into the public again. Because, and this is, up to 2 years ago, I had my little close-knit group in Minnesota. I was not on any social media. I was not doing podcasts or presentations at wellness conferences or being at expos. I didn't even have a smartphone. But today I have it all. And my guides actually give me ideas on marketing ideas. And I have just a beautiful one yesterday. I created this piece that's just gorgeous about finding the light with these products. And it's this beautiful path with trees and the light, down the path, and I put the products in there along the path. It's very, very cool. So anyway, the way to reach me and to check out these products, because I have now been cancer-free for 2 years, because even though I got surgery 11 years ago, I still continued to have surgery or have cancer that I had to have removed, whether it was frozen off or cut out. There were parts of me that have been continually removed. It was half my nose was gone the first operation, but since there, I've lost parts of my arms and there's stuff all over the body. But today, the last 2 years, cancer-free, which is a huge deal. And it's because of these products. Since taking them, I've been pain-free, prescription-free, and now cancer-free. Used to have really bad depression, and that's just kind of a genetic thing, and that's gone as well. So, yeah. So to get a hold of me, I've got 2 different websites, either Club Sparkle MN, like Minnesota.com, or Kelly Rogers Biz, BIZ.com. Or no, actually it's kellyrogers.biz and it's KELLYROGERS.biz, B-I-Z.
Gotcha.
And so there's healing on the Kelly Rogers Biz. It's a little more on the spiritual side. I've got healers in there, plus the Club Sparkle products on the Club Sparkle MN site. It's those products alone. And so, I am available to, love to have anyone who might want to join the class, free Thursday evenings at 7 Central. I'd like to offer that up. The meditation, it's only 8 minutes, and everyone should be meditating every day, just to help keep yourself in alignment and in flow. And this is 8 minutes. So it's an easy one. You're in, you get to feel the grid, and then, and you feel the galactic beings, and then they'll bring you out. And actually Archangel Metatron brings us in, and the Hathors bring us out. You actually have 2 beings behind you, Sarah, right now. 2 Hathors, they both have their hands on your shoulder in support of what you're doing. So it's beautiful. Yes. Yes.
And I don't see, my gift is really hearing. But as you have been talking and I've been communicating with you, the vibration is so high. Like I'm like dripping with sweat. And it's not nervousness. And I should be nervous because my children are downstairs making so much noise and crying and having tantrums. And I'm like, this is supposed to be a quiet time.
I don't even hear them. I really don't. Yeah.
That's why I keep like muting, unmuting. I'm like, oh my God. So that's cool. So I don't know about galactic beings at all. Like, I feel like that could be a whole nother conversation, but
yes.
What are the beings that are, and are they always with me or just when you are communicating with me?
Well, typically when people somehow connect with me, we seem to have Hathors in connection. And now I'm going to assume that you like music because they love music.
Yes.
And that's typically where I will find them, with someone who likes to sing and dance around the house and wherever, to the children, you know. And
I'm a walking musical.
okay, that is why they are with you. They find a lot of joy in that. They're very tall. They're beautiful people. They're beings. They really are very supportive. If you are struggling with anything, I just say, I need a Hawthorne sandwich. I have them come and just kind of surround me if my undies are in a bunch, and then I can just feel it leaving because of their support. So I think they kind of come in and out. We would have one that would come in and breathe with us, and they would just pop in my car with me. And so that's kind of how things are here. They just kind of pop in and pop out. And so, yeah.
That is so awesome. I love it.
But I think we have a lot of beings around us. I would say almost everyone probably has. They're telling me 5 to 6 beings we each have assigned to us to assist us while we're going through this. And if you don't think that you're a part of the ascension process or project, I'm going to say you are. If you are here, if you are in good health, you are part of this process, this project. You may not be quite aware of what you are supposed to be doing, and maybe you're just holding space for some of the others that are doing more of the crazy work, like me, going in and, I've done tunnels, and we had galactic beings coming in from the 12th dimension. Now we can get up to the 24th dimension with ease. So, it's quite an interesting, everything that's happening. I know someone said, have I written a book yet? No, I haven't.
You certainly can.
Well, I am so grateful that I have had I have these gifts and I'm able to share them. But I don't, the thing is, you can't take it for granted. And I know for myself, I do a gratitude list several times a day. I do prayers. I thank in the evening, thank the universe for all the blessings that I've had in that day. It's all really important to have some kind of daily practice, keep those cells expanded. If you're having any physical struggles or feel like you need some support with the energetics, check out clubsparklemn.com. Here's a little plug. But these products, they will help. They'll help with any issues. They're also antiviral. So the other thing too is a friend of mine, Christine Day, she works with the Pleiadians. I was just listening to her thing, and I know this is off topic for me, but she actually has something that helps people if they want to take the vaccine that will help not affect your DNA. The Pleiadians said the vaccine will affect your DNA, but she has something that's free on her website, christinedayonline.com, in the free resources. And she's amazing. I'll tell you, her broadcast for February was very good, talked about what's going on. That's the other thing that's really important. Connect up, figure out like those teachers out there, Christine Day being one of mine, that are going to help you know that you're okay, that understanding what's going on, just like you talked to Gwen for your support today. It's so important that we connect with someone else to help us know that all is well. There's a lot of stuff going on right now we do not know about. They're keeping it under wraps, keeping people calm, but what is being told on mainstream media, it's probably not reality. So it's like, we really don't, there's very little that we know. and you have to be okay with that. Stay away from the news. Don't get into fear. Fear is not going to serve you. Hold love, hold light for yourself. Be the lighthouse with the silvery light. There's so many, and I also have a newsletter, free newsletter I can send out to anybody. I talk about holding rocks, having rocks in your pocket to ground yourself, because as you expand yourself, you can start floating away. So, rock up is one of my new mottos, so that you don't float away, that you stay here, but you stay expanded. Allow the expansion. That's also going to connect you up with your higher self, and start moving you into other realms. And if you find that you forget something, you go from point A to point B, and you're like, what happened in between? You probably jumped into another dimension. It's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. If you don't remember what happened, it's okay. It's not Alzheimer's. It's not dementia. We are moving easily between these dimensions because we actually have an aspect in these other dimensions. And so we might pop out of here and I'll be Madeline in another one, or Gus, or Zing, or whoever, and then I'll pop back. And so there's nothing to fear, and know that this is just part of, how special we all are.
Mm-hmm. You've given so much knowledge and tips and tools. I just thank you so much. You're so giving and so helpful. Thank you.
Yes.
Yes. And
So
I look forward to having you again on the podcast. And I will post the clubsparklemn.com and kellyrogers.biz along with the podcast. And I'll send you out a link for this to share with your own followers and that sort of thing. So you can get your vibe going out there.
Yeah.
But thank you so much for being here, and we'll connect again soon.
All right. Have a great night. Bye. Love and light.